executive session meeting interviews April 20th, 2017. 1C, approval of special counsel executive session meeting interviews April 21st, 2017. CA2, receipt of minutes from the following boards and commissions. A, Conservation Commission. 2, B, Cemetery Commission. CA3, correspondence, receive and file. 3A, Smithfield School Department resolution regarding gun-free schools. 3B, Situate Town Council resolution objecting to proposed legislation H6122, Rhode Island Cooperative Water Authority. 3C, East Greenwich Town Council resolution in opposition to H5475 and S0481 relating to cities and towns subdivision of land. CA4, Police and Fire overtime reports for April. CA5, distribution of department monthly reports for April. CA6, approval of resolution proclaiming May 2017 as Month of Mental Health. CA7, Philomena Santos Higgins, Development Director, Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, requests council authorization for a 5th annual 62 and 23-mile Cycle for Life bicycle ride on Saturday, September 16th, 2017, to start and finish at Westport River Vineyards. CA8, Reverend William A. Sterrett, Amicable Church, 243 Stone Church Road, requests council authorization for a 5K race and family walk on Saturday, June 24th, 2017, beginning at 8 a.m. from Four Corners to Neck Road, west to Sapart Road, north to Bridge Pond, and return 3.1 miles. Are there any items that the council wishes to remove from the consent agenda? Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Open public forum for announcements, comments, and questions. I have Newport County Community Health Center resolution on Mental Health Month, May 2017. I'd like to introduce Jamie Lehane, President and CEO of Newport County Mental Health Center. Go to the podium. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President and fellow councilors. We really appreciate your recognizing for the town of Tiverton that May is mental health and making that proclamation. If you'd like, I can read the proclamation.
Proceed.
Thank you. Mental Health Month, May 2017. Whereas mental health is essential to everyone's overall health and well-being, and whereas mental illnesses are real and prevalent in our nation and county, half of us will have a mental health diagnosis at some point in our lives. And whereas all Americans experience times of difficulty and stress in their lives and should feel comfortable in seeking help and support to manage these times. And whereas engaging in prevention, early identification, and early intervention are effective ways to reduce the burden of mental illnesses, which are similar to the ways we reduce the burden of other chronic health conditions. And whereas there's a strong body of research that identifies behavioral health risks and specific tools that all Americans can use to protect their health and well-being, and whereas with effective treatment, all individuals with mental illness, even those with serious mental illness, can make progress towards recovery and lead full, productive, happy, and healthy lives. And whereas, unfortunately, our jails and prisons often become the default places of custodial care for even nonviolent people with serious mental illness. And whereas each business, school, government agency, healthcare provider organization, and citizen can play a role in promoting mental health and well-being for all. Therefore, the Tiverton Town Council publicly proclaims May 2017 as Mental Health Month in Tiverton, Rhode Island, and calls upon the citizens, government agencies, public and private institution, businesses, and schools in Tiverton, Rhode Island to recommit our community to increasing awareness and understanding of mental health, the steps our citizens can take to protect their mental health, and the need for appropriate and accessible services for all people with mental illness at all ages. If I may, I would just like to add that Newport County Community Mental Health Center is the community mental health center that serves all the towns in the six-town Newport County, including Tiverton, and that we provide as a public service an emergency crisis line so that anyone who's listening tonight who is having an emotional problem can call 24 hours a day and receive support from a licensed clinician. That number is 846-1213. And lastly, that screening and early identification, if you're in need of talking to a professional, is a very important way to really help people before the problem becomes something that's disabling or chronic. And that on our website, www.nccmhc.org, for Mental Health Awareness Month, which is a national month, we do have mental health screening tools that are available if people would like to go on our website and just browse it and see, because it kind of can point if it's time to maybe come in and see a professional. So I thank you for addressing this important issue tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Jamie? Take the proclamation.
Thank you very much.
Continuing with the open public forum, Gary Vieira, update on Haskins Ave.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm looking for your update. You were supposed to be briefed
So,
in executive session.
there is ongoing litigation regarding this issue. On that basis, I'd advise the council not to speak on this issue at this time.
We have not received an update yet.
You have not been updated. Okay, one other question. Do I have the council's blessing in going to my piece of property?
I
I would-
can't answer that.
Yeah, I would say this is an ongoing litigation, so I'd advise the council not to.
So you're
address this.
denying me access to my piece of property?
We just can't answer your question.
Who can answer my question?
I think it's in the court, so
Yeah.
the court has to answer that.
And if you have a lawyer, you can check with your lawyer, too.
But today you're denying me the right to go to my piece of property. That's what you're doing.
So,
I can't answer.
not speaking to that.
I've gone to other departments, building official, highway superintendent, everybody tells me to bring it to the council. I bring it to the council, and then you tell me you don't know.
As far as I understand, it's in the courts right now.
That's correct.
So it's the courts that will decide this.
Very good.
Sally Black, budget?
Yes, liaison to the town council from the school committee. First of all, thank you for having this public forum. It's wonderful that we can come and speak. Makes me very happy. I just want to let you know it's that time of year and people are calling. And I just wanted everyone to know that the school department will not have a budget on this year's docket because we were not allowed to put one on. Because everyone says, which number is it, 1, 2, or whatever? Well, it's no number for this year because we weren't able to put one on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sally. B, public hearings and presentations. David Robert, tax assessor, public updates regarding 2017 revaluation in farm, forest, and open space.
Good evening. Just wanted to bring the council and the residents up to date that this year we are conducting a property revaluation. This is a statistical, which means that there is no door-to-door canvassing of data collectors. However, there will be some field work done, and mainly they are going to visit the properties that have sold in the last 12 to 18 months. So if any resident does have a concern about someone showing up at the door, they will be registered with the police department, their names and their vehicles. And they can always contact my office if there's any questions. Does the council have any questions regarding that at this point?
Is there something that you can put on the website?
It'll be on the website,
Okay.
and also, I failed to mention that they will begin some of their data collection on those sale properties probably towards the end of this month. But it will be updated on the website, and there is progress along the way on those revaluation updates. Every single one of them will be posted on the website.
Very good.
As far as the farm, forest, and open space, this is an update that I'm bringing to the town council. As you recall, we had some issues with some participants of this program. So this year, when we mailed out the yearly affirmation, we asked them to include a conservation plan, a copy of the conservation plan, and some kind of income verification, mainly through the federal tax return, that they are earning the minimum requirement to continue classification as a farm. Through that process, we have removed 27 properties, which represents roughly $1.5 million in assessment and somewhere around $30,000 in tax dollars. These are people that did not have any income to report, did not have a comp plan, failed to return the forms, or voluntarily withdrew. We have flagged approximately 58 additional properties, which we are going to further review and hopefully get some interaction with DEM. As I mentioned in the past, having some kind of communication with them has been difficult at best. So I'm hoping that this summer, when I follow up with them on these 58 properties, there'll be a little bit more cooperation between my department and theirs. If not, I may be coming to the town council for some backup and see how we can basically force them to answer some questions. Again, I have mailed out several emails to the director, and I've yet to get a response. So we have an issue there. So mainly those 58 properties are also ones that did indicate that they were in the process of getting a conservation plan. They are required to have one. But as long as they're in the process of trying to get one, it's satisfying my department at this point in view, at this time. But it's really something DEM should be following up on, and they haven't, so it kind of puts us in an awkward position. But we're working with the Eastern Conservation District and helping us move some of these folks along. The current farm forest open space properties enrolled. Currently, we have 113 farms. We have 39 forest properties, and we have 60 open space. We did have one withdrawal from the forest program. Everyone in open space, we really don't have an issue with them. There is no requirement for them except to have 10 acres. So as long as they have the 10 acres, they do qualify for the open space. So at this point, I do plan on presenting a formal report to the town council after my interaction with DEM, so be later this summer. And that'll give you a full report of how many properties we had prior to this year's applications, how many have been removed, and how many that we've worked with DEM trying to solve some of these issues. So if you have any questions at this point in time, be happy to answer.
Any questions? Mr. LeBeau?
Dave, on a new application for a farm, is this the conservation plan, is that state or is that town that they have to go to?
That is state. With the farm properties and the forest properties, they do have to apply to the state. The town doesn't approve them, the state does. Once they get that approval, they send it to my office. And at that point in time, the property owner, they then can apply for a tax reduction.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from the council? Ms. Hilton?
Not so much a question, but I was actually in the tax assessor's office today, asking whether or not, and I think the rest of the council got copies of this, House Bill 6172, given that we have 100, right now, 113 properties enrolled in the
Correct.
farm program, and unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time to comment because this bill is going to the House Municipal Government Committee on Wednesday night. But in discussing this with the tax assessor, this bill would allow anyone who's designated as a farm by the DEM, and the DEM does the designation, not us. And even if tax assessor determines that based on the criteria, they don't qualify for the tax exemption, unless till DEM unenrolls them from the program, which they seem to be not very willing to do, then technically they're still classified as a farm. And what this bill would allow is for anybody who's classified as a farm to have a right with virtually no restrictions to a number of what are being referred to as secondary agricultural operations, which include but are not limited to the display of antique vehicles and equipment, retail sales, tours, classes, petting, feeding, and viewing of animals, hay rides, crop mazes, which we have some of now and are fine, but it also then includes festivals, weddings, and other special events. And no municipality would be allowed to restrict or regulate or limit those events unless there was a determination from the local police or fire chief that there's a public safety issue. So effectively, for the 113 properties we have enrolled in the farm program, there would be almost no limit on the kinds of additional activities that could happen on those properties. I don't know that there is a lot of time for us and to respond to this, how quickly we can respond. And I think that while certainly we're incredibly supportive of the farmers, and many of our farmers now do have programs that they're doing to help increase income, and that's fine. But the idea that the state is going to remove virtually all zoning control as far as uses on 113 farm properties in Tiverton is pretty worrisome.
Now, didn't they have this legislation up last year?
And they had it last year. It didn't pass, but it's back again.
So that can become problematic, especially when we're trying to do some income verifications. Currently, right now, it's supposed to be strictly farm-derived. If they start doing these other features, I'm not sure how that's then going to mesh with the current regulations that DEM has for these farms. It sounds like that bill is almost going to be kind of separate and bypassed, but it'll be interesting to see if it does get passed and how DEM will consider that as part of their farm income.
It also doesn't specify when the accessory activities become the primary activities and the farming income becomes
Secondary.
secondary to the accessory activities. And there's not a finite limit. So it seems to me that you could go well beyond, because they're classifying things as special events. That pretty much covers anything that you want to do on a farm piece of property. So, as I said, we don't have this on for a vote, and we've only seen it, but if there is a way for the council to express its concern about this, Peter, do you have any advice?
So, depending how you want to express your concern, if members of the council wanted to testify before the House committee, You could go there, and as long as members of the council were not discussing among themselves about things within your jurisdiction and control, but only expressing your opinion to the committee, that wouldn't be a violation of the Open Meetings Act. Also, individual council members could provide written testimony or letters to send to their state legislator to express their opinion. So while there's not enough time to meet the 48-hour notice requirement that would be needed for official council action, it could either be expressed through written letters or testimony from individual council members, or council members could go to the House committee meeting and testify if they want to do so, if they choose to do so.
Well, the House committee meeting, I think, is at 5 on Wednesday. Could we put this, though, Madam President, for a discussion and possible vote on a resolution for the next council meeting?
Yeah. So
Yeah, you can, even though they are discussing it in committee, it will need to get out of committee in order to get a full vote of the House, and then there has to be a corresponding Senate bill. So it has a ways to go, but certainly there is time to do a council resolution not in support of this bill. So we can, if we can pull together a resolution and have that on the next council meeting, that would be really good.
Do we have any idea how close it was last time from passing?
I don't know if it made it out of committee. I don't know.
Madam President,
Mr. Edwards?
I was just going to say, too, there is only one sponsor on the bill, but that sponsor is the deputy majority leader. So, he does have some ties to, obviously, the leadership in the House, and that could help advance this bill. So it would be wise for us to send something up there, or at least contact our delegation and make sure that they're aware of our concern relative to this legislation.
Personally, I don't have a problem with the farmers undertaking certain activities to help with their income, and I think it's fine. But I don't think that the state should be making a determination on the zoning on that. I think that belongs to every individual municipality to work with the farm community and determine what works for us, not for the state to completely override our local zoning authority.
Can you repeat that House bill?
It's House Bill 6172.
Thank you.
Okay, so can we have a resolution for the next meeting? I'm sure that there's folks out there probably putting together activities. I think we received an email from a Nancy,
Yes.
I forget her last name.
Yeah, I figured too, but I did respond, and I CC'd the town council on that.
Yes, thank you for responding
Sure.
promptly.
My pleasure.
All right, any more questions from the council?
No, but I'd like to just recognize the tax assessor for doing this. This has been something that's been floating around for a long time, and he did come to the Conservation Commission last year, and it's a big project and a lot of work. So thank you, Dave, because
Thank you. Appreciate it.
it's needed attention for a while, so much appreciated.
Yep, we're moving forward on that. Thank you.
Yep, thank you very much, David. Next item. Town council sitting as Board of Licensing, non-advertised licenses, C1. Keith Lambert, Keystone Novelties Distributors, LLC, Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Request approval of licenses for sale of fireworks at 525 Main Road from June 13th through July 5th, 2017, from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m., subject to meeting all legal requirements. This is both for a holiday license and a fireworks license. Do we have Keith Lambert here?
Keith couldn't make it tonight. My name's Ed McMahon. I'm going to be the store manager, and I'm here to address any questions or concerns.
Any questions from the council?
Until 11 o'clock, was that what they've done in the past, 11 p.m.?
Yes.
Did that previous years?
Yes. Wasn't it on the, no, it was on the 3rd and 4th, I think. Those were the two different ones. All the rest were 9.
Yeah, I don't remember it being open
Thought
to
it was
11
9 to
o'clock.
9. I thought it was 9 to 9.
9 to, yeah, except for the 2 days, the 3rd and 4th.
It doesn't say that.
It didn't say that there?
It says 9 to 11, from the 13th to the 13th of June
Oh,
to
in
the
here,
5th
on here.
of July.
On here, yeah.
Yep, on your request.
Now, this location is,
Main Road
On
right across.
Main Road.
From Allstate Insurance, from Secana Grill, right across the street, opposite side.
so it's right next to the Seconic, oh no, the
No.
pit stop?
Right.
It
Right
used to be
next door.
Curves?
Yep, right next door. That's where they were last year, too.
Yeah, you were there last year as well.
Right.
The fire chief's not here by any chance, right? I just wanted, just to see if he had any problems last year that might be an issue this year, but if he's not here,
I don't think there was, because he would have,
Right,
he would
Yeah.
have been down on us.
But,
Yeah.
right, but he's not here, so.
And as far as
We
the
gotta assume
requirements
there's
go, he
not.
has to approve it.
Yep.
He's got the
Yeah.
final word on it,
Yep.
Yeah.
We had one thing was that with the storage, that he wanted it towards the end of the road so he could see it as they drive by and make sure that we had the plackets on it.
Yep.
So that they would know what they're going into if there was ever a problem, That was the only request that he had for me.
Were you the manager there last year also?
No,
Okay.
no.
All right, so the only issue we have is the hours, 9 AM to,
11 PM. And it says, doesn't specify just July 3rd and 4th, it says every night, so I don't know if if that's an issue or not, but.
did you?
I'm not
Could we
sure what
amend
last
that?
year's was, but you can amend the times
Yeah.
on this.
Yeah.
And I don't think I have the full clearance from the fire marshal yet, but it's subject to all
Meeting
legal,
all
we would
legal
have that.
requirements.
So I will ask him if there was any problems as well.
So you want to be open 9 AM to 11 PM on the 3rd
The
and the
3rd and
4th,
4th, yeah, those are
Just only those 2 nights.
those 2 nights. The rest are from 9 to 9.
and all the other nights?
Yeah.
So we can just make that motion.
I'll make a motion, we grant permission, license for 6:13 to 7:05, from 6 AM, 9 AM to, 9 AM to 9 PM, except for the 3rd and 4th of July till 11 PM, provided they meet all legal requirements.
And that's for both the holiday and fireworks license?
Yes.
It's
Second.
July 23rd. I thought you said July 13th.
No, July 5th. 3rd and-
We close on the
June
5th.
23rd is when-
June 23rd to July 5th.
It says here June 13th.
Where are you looking?
Where does it say June 13th?
On your agenda?
On the agenda, it says 6:13.
Oh, but on the request
it says 6:23.
Type that agenda. But on
Typo
this
error.
agenda request, it's June 23rd. He's not looking for it from the 13th.
No.
He's only looking for the 23rd. I'm sorry about that, Joe.
Okay. I mean, I know my eyes are bad, but.
All right, so let me repeat it. We have a motion to approve the holiday and fireworks licenses for the sale of fireworks at 525 Main Road from June 23rd, 2017 to July 5th, 2017, from 9 AM to 9 PM, and on July 3rd and 4th, from 9 AM to 11 PM, subject to meeting all legal requirements.
And I second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you.
Just come down and get the permit whenever.
There's,
She'll contact you as
She'll
soon as
contact
she
us.
has
The-
the fire
okay.
marshal's sign off and everything.
Okay, all right, thank you.
thank you. Good luck.
Good luck.
D, appointments and resignations. We have appointments Economic Development Committee, 4-year unexpired terms, 2 vacancies expiring 7/15/2018 and 2 expiring 7/15/2019. Mark Pfeiffer, 20 South Court, is he? Could you come up here and, you can either sit down or podium, whichever you prefer. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you would like to be appointed to the EDC Commission?
Yeah, I resided in Tiverton for the last 5 years. I've been a member or resident of Newport County for the last 30 or so. Went to Roger Williams University, where I majored in marketing. I've been in sales and marketing my entire life. The reason I want to join the EDC is because I think there's opportunities to further develop the economy in Tiverton, raise the tax base and non-residential opportunities. And I think there's a lot that I can offer in terms of providing ideas and working with the other members of the committee.
Any questions from the council?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Have you attended any of the meetings up till now? Have you gone
I have
to any of
not,
them?
no. I attended a couple last year when I had previously applied.
And I don't think that, because the EDC hasn't had a
They haven't
quorum,
had a meeting.
I don't think they've had any meetings for a kind of a long time now.
It's hard to have one member.
Who just spoke up? Renee has meetings just by
It's Renee's
herself.
fault. It's Renee's fault. We'll blame her.
Very good. Any other questions? Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Louis Viola, we interviewed previously.
Yep.
Barbara Pelletier, we also interviewed previously. Martin Van Hoff, we do have his paperwork now. We interviewed him at the last council session. We have a new request from Shirley Ann Dupre. Is she here this evening?
I don't see her, and I'm not sure why, so.
And we have also an application from Elizabeth Carr. Hi. Would you like to come to the podium? Tell us a little bit about yourself and why you would like to be on the commission.
Alrighty. Well, my family has lived in Tiverton since the 1970s. While I was married for several years, I actually lived in New Hampshire and then came back down almost 5 years ago when my daughter graduated from high school and I got divorced, came back to be with my family. My family actually lives right next door to Sally Black, so we're in the Broadview Drive neighborhood. I currently live on Riverside Drive. I attended Salve Regina back in the day, got a BAS in Management and French, and I also have an MBA from Simmons College. I'm currently a vice president at Citizens Bank in Compliance and Central Administration and Oversight. I manage a very large divisional budget. I also do vendor management, contract management. I manage nationally the business continuity plans, both for the buildings and also for call tree and notifications and communications and teams for business continuity for the bank, for the compliance division. And I also have, that's on the corporate side, I also own a small business, Sakana Travel, myself, so I have some experience on the entrepreneurial side as well. And I think I put it in my application, but was a busy working mom until recently, but about 6 months ago I became an empty nester. And I feel like, okay, I'm at a time in my life now where I can give back a little bit and would be very interested in serving on the commission. And I don't think I have any preconceived notions about what should be done or what shouldn't be done. I think there's a lot of opinions in town, and I would like to listen and learn. But I am very interested in helping the town to secure economic development opportunities that I think will give us a return on our investment, first of all, and actually grow the revenue base. If we can keep that within our values of the town, the comp plan, the new comp plan that's being developed. And I also have a big interest in trying to research and look at and maybe help the town with looking forward with the types of industries or economies of the 21st century that might really help us out. So,
Very good.
somebody,
Any questions from the council?
I'm not going to ask if she went to any meetings.
what's that?
I'm not going to ask if you've been to any meetings. But we have a lot of
No, but
other,
I did speak to Renee on the phone. So I know that counts.
we have a lot of other committees too. If you're looking for empty nest, to fill that empty nest, we have a lot of other committees
Okay,
that
thank
you can volunteer for also.
Right.
Very good. Thank you. So that I think it leaves us with still one more to interview at the next council meeting, if you can.
Honestly, I honestly thought she was going to be here.
Okay.
I have no idea. I didn't get any messages from her.
Okay. Thank you.
Madam President, may I ask a question? While normally, we would wait till the next meeting to appoint anyway, but if we have just one more, I'm starting to feel a little badly because this is, some of these folks we interviewed a while ago. You know, could we possibly, even if we have to interview one more, still schedule a vote for the next meeting, just because it's been a while for some of these folks? And the fact that we have interested participants, I don't want them to change their mind, so we should rope them in and tie them down as soon as humanly possible.
That's a very good suggestion.
You could advertise it for a vote, and then you could waive the policy.
Yep. Very good. So we can expect appointments at the next meeting. Unfinished business, none. Financial business, F1, interim town administrator, approval to draw down balance of insurance premium stabilization account for $106,000 and place an insurance account number 21905268. Ms. Mello?
I think this has been discussed before, and the prior administrator has made it known. This is our tax stabilization account from the health insurance. It has to be put into the health insurance account. And there currently is a balance of $106,102. I believe they're going to be giving dividends again, but we don't know what Tiverton would receive, which would be able to help stabilize for next year. But this is the total balance in the account. I've attached it.
Do I have a motion?
So moved. I make a motion to approve to draw down balance of insurance premium stabilization account of $106,000 and place in insurance account 2190-5268.
Second.
I have a motion and second.
Madam President.
Discussion, Mr. Edwards?
Just one point. It looks like it's $106,102. Should we move the entire amount? And if so, would you accept the amendment?
You could put that amount or whatever the balance is at this time, just in case it's changed to dollars worth or something.
So we'll just change it to whatever the balance is when the transfer happens. Is that acceptable?
Is that acceptable on the second?
Second, yes.
Okay, I have a motion and second on amended motion. All those in favor? Unanimous. F2, interim town administrator, town council authorization for credit on purchase price of Essex Library for pump replacement of $2,544.25.
Again, this has been discussed prior. We now have the invoice, the estimated invoice at $2,544. That's what they're looking for a credit on the purchase price. As you recall, the prior administrator said instead of us going out and fix it, we would just do a credit.
Yep.
So
I'll make a motion.
we need an official vote because it has to be for the purchase and sale. The attorney said it must come by vote.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to approve $2,544.25 to purchase price of the Essex Library for a pump replacement
Second.
per prior agreement by the town administrator.
I have a motion and second. All those in favor? Unanimous. New business, G1, Jeffrey D. Oliveria, Tiverton Little League, permission to replace scoreboard at Daniels Field, Town Farm, with total cost donated by Tiverton businesses. Good evening.
Good evening. Can I have permission to hand out the council?
Thank you.
Just first wanted to thank the council for taking the opportunity to come before you tonight.
Very good.
You gotta watch that guy on the side. Thank you.
So my request is to replace the scoreboard at Daniels Field, located at Town Farm Recreation Area. The replacement would be the same scoreboard, model, size, color. The one that's there currently is not operating properly. We've been trying to fix it and maintain it for the last 3 or 4 years. The time and effort and not having a scoreboard for the players is almost kind of an embarrassment to our Little League organization. So we've reached out to a local business to donate the price of replacement of the scoreboard. The people donating it is Bob and Emily Johnson that own Naugatuck Tree Farms in locally a Tiverton business. I have a written commitment for the total costs and replacement and to be delivered to here in Tiverton for the complete cost of the scoreboard.
Is there a time frame?
If we order the scoreboard tomorrow, well, let me go back. We'd like to be installed as soon as possible. If we were to order this scoreboard tomorrow, it's probably a 3-week time period to get it. It's coming from Kentucky. It's Varsity scoreboards, the same model that's represented in the picture that I handed out. So the window is probably a 3-week window to get the scoreboard in hands. Being in the middle of the season, we would like to install it as soon as possible and to get the permitting all lined up so when it does come in, it can be installed.
Very good. Any questions from the council?
Madam President,
Mr. Edwards?
I'd just like to make a motion to grant permission to replace the scoreboard at Daniels Field with total cost donated by Tiverton businesses.
Before you go ahead and make that motion, and I apologize, just for full disclosure, I'd like Jeffrey to explain that there will be a slight change to the sign. As you can see by that picture, it says, I'm sorry, I didn't keep a copy and I shut my
No,
phone down.
given by the church.
And I apologize for not disclosing that, yes.
So it says, given by the Central Baptist Church in memory of Donald H. Lake, that would change. That section of the sign would change.
Just to recognize the current business donating the money for replacement. Sorry, I didn't disclose that earlier.
I think that's fine. I mean,
Okay, just wanted to.
I would expect their name to be on there somewhere,
Okay.
so.
I apologize to the council, thank you.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Very good. We have a motion and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Very good.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Appreciate your time.
I'd like to thank Little League for going through the effort of finding a sponsor for that sign and getting it replaced for the town. So thank you, Jeffrey.
Thank you. Thank you.
G2, Councilors DiMederos and Hilton, discussion and vote on process of reporting all town grants to town council.
If it's okay, Madam President, we'd like to table this for a little while. To be honest, I'm not sure that the way it's written is entirely descriptive, but given that we may have a new town administrator, it might be better to wait and have a discussion on sort of the policy and how we prepare for and you know, how we budget for and do those kinds of things about applying for grants once we have a new administrator in place. So.
And that would include tracking and making sure that we meet the requirements of the grant.
I think it would, and it would, you know, also apply to boards and commissions, just so that, you know, if we have to set aside a match or we need, you know, a certain amount of funds, that we've budgeted for it, that we've planned for it, and that if there are any commitments that go with the grants, you know, we're aware of ahead of time. I'm not sure that all is, maybe correct. Some of them are sort of small and maybe don't need that level of review. But it seems to me that it's a worthwhile process, but maybe we would be better off waiting until we had a new administrator in place.
Very good. Okay, we'll plan on this being on a future agenda. No time specified at this point.
Joe says not too much in the future.
Very good. G3, interim town administrator, request authorization to advertise recreation program coordinator position.
Madam Chair, this position has not been advertised. It was discussed, and there was going to be some massaging to the job description. What I did was go back and find a job description, add a few things to it to try to get this out there, because I would imagine that Mr. Cordero needs to get someone in place, since we usually begin the beach process Memorial Day weekend, and we won't even have someone hired by then.
Yes, please.
We hear you.
Because I don't have the time to run the beach.
Oh, no, you don't.
Come on, John.
All right.
Not
and,
retired yet.
And this has a response time frame of May 25th. That's cutting it really close.
It can't get in the paper before Thursday, which would be the 12th. I mean, I could, and you don't meet it, well, you're going to meet again on the 22nd, so I suppose I could cut that short for a week or so, and you could make sure anybody that would be interested
Can you
comes in
put
and
out feelers
applies.
to people that you know that might be interested in this, John?
Yeah, yes, we can. So what do you want to shorten the reply time?
Yeah.
Yes.
What do you have it at right now, Nancy?
Right now, it's on the 25th. I would guess we would bring it to the Thursday before, so we'd only be giving them about 7 or 8 days of notice
From the time it's advertised?
from the time it's advertised.
I had one person who already put in an application.
May 25th.
Not for
Couple-
coordinator, because we don't take application. Oh, unless they put it in with the recreation
Yeah,
stuff, I
he
don't
did.
know.
May 25th, John, is right
Okay.
before Memorial Day.
Right.
So you might want to make it a week before.
Right. I just don't want to miss out on anybody, but yeah, I think we'll be okay. We'll get a candidate.
Now, does this have to go through personnel?
Yes?
So we're not even going to make the 25th?
You're not even going to
No.
make Memorial Day.
We'll get by.
But we could put on maybe somebody temporary till personnel, but if you only have 1 or 2 applicants, you
Right. We can get by. We're open only for the weekends to start. We have some kids that return each year. They're responsible enough where if need be, and I think they're getting older, if need be, in the interim, we could find one of those key employees to make the first several deposits.
Okay. All right, so do you want to leave it at the 25th to give enough time?
I wouldn't.
We
You
can
won't have
move
one
it up. We can,
October.
because we can start spreading the word,
Okay.
via social
right.
media, that it's coming, that the need is there.
All right, so what date, the 19th, or,
I need 7 days before, so I guess it'd be around the 19th, 18th, or 19th, whatever the Thursday is before the other calendar.
That would be the 20th, right?
20th is a Saturday,
besides the 20th?
so
The
it'll be
18th, I'm guessing,
the 18th.
the 18th.
Thursday, the 18th.
So I would get it in the paper this week for the 11th, and they would be due by the 18th. But you could also put out feelers if anybody knows, and if anybody's listening to this and they're interested in it, they should come in and put an application.
But we can always extend it if the need be, if we don't get anybody, so.
Right. We could advertise until we have someone. Mr. Perry seems to think we have someone.
Yeah, there was a gentleman who approached me and put in an application, and he was very interested.
I don't open the applications, they go to the personnel board, so I
Yeah,
don't
right.
know.
So it might have gone to them. I'll see if I can track him down tomorrow.
Okay. All right, so the advertising date would be response by Thursday, the May 18th.
Madam President,
Mr. Edwards?
we have a motion to authorize the interim town administrator to advertise the recreation program coordinator position, subject to the changes discussed.
Second.
I have a motion and second. All those in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck, John.
He'll do it. He works miracles.
G4, Counselor LeBeau, discussion and possible vote to immediately begin hiring process for additional clerical assistants in the building zoning office. I know we didn't have a sheet associated with this.
Hi.
Hi, Mr. LeBeau.
So,
Can you explain your thought process?
I
and-
can. After last week, with about 7 or 8 calls I got from contractors without the office being open, Tiverton needs to have that door open. If Jody goes down for some reason, anything, broken ankle, we'll go with that, we're closed, we're shut down. Neil can't do it all. We need somebody trained in there for backup. If we don't do something immediately, I saved a few of the emails I got that were pretty nice and, respectfully saying, can we do something? So by virtue of the contractors, I put this up so we can try to get somebody hired and trained. I spoke to Jody about it, and she's on board. She needs help. She said the training process won't be fun, but we definitely need to start thinking about having them doors open.
Now,
It's a budgeted position for next year.
Correct.
Madam President, it is a budgeted position, but it was under the idea that it was going to be a planning zoning clerk. So I do already have from the planning board some suggestions on what they would be looking for. I've got to work with Jody on what they're really looking for from that end, and I'll put together a job description and an advertisement. If you can, perhaps, it's going to take that long to get it going anyway, because it would be a union position. It probably would need to be posted within before you can go out to advertise. There's steps to this, but if you could approve that part, we will get it going as quick as we can. And
Does the candidates have to be interviewed by the Personnel Board? Unless they're in,
that's after it
Right.
makes outside
Right. That's what I'm saying,
advertisement.
as
But
long as
it's
it's-
union position, so it first has
Right.
to be posted for 8 days, Jody, or something?
Yep.
7, but we can do it simultaneously. I have no problem
7.
working with it.
So
Right,
if
so
the
that
union's
doesn't have
willing
to-
to work with it, we can simultaneous, because this would be a part-time position.
Yep.
So is it possible for the council to approve it with perhaps the solicitor reviewing the advertisement and description?
I'll make that a
Or do
motion.
you want everything in hand before you, because that would stall it another 2 weeks.
and then this is for starting in July.
Well, unless, yes, there is
Yeah, 'cause
actually
there's
no
no
money
money.
now,
There's
but
no
if
money.
we don't get on it now,
Yep. It'll
it's
drag
not
on
even going to be
until
ready
August.
for July.
Right.
It's, we've got to get it moving. If we could get it in a week or two before, all the better.
So just a
Second
question.
Joe's motion.
What was your motion?
Joe did.
To do what Nancy said. I'm no fool.
Okay.
So.
No,
well, actually-
you have to do a motion that
But it-
is
then it should,
specific.
from what you just said,
To draw up a
Job
job
description.
description.
And have it
Right.
approved by the attorney.
right, but from what you just said, somebody said it, I don't know who it was. So it shouldn't be building zoning, it should be planning zoning, correct?
Right.
Okay, so that would be the,
Isn't that the,
it says building zoning.
Planning.
No, it's planning
Is
zoning.
But you said the money was from the planning zoning.
The budgeted position
budget
is
is
Budgeted
the
positions
building.
from
planning
the
building.
zoning.
Yeah.
planning zoning, okay.
zoning.
So a question, so you said if it's an internal, then it doesn't nobody gets interviewed by the personnel board, so
Right.
who
no,
interviews them?
no, that, if it's, of course, it's a union position,
Yeah.
so it gets posted, and anyone within the union could bid on that.
Okay,
Once no one, if in fact no one wants it from within the unions,
Uh-huh.
how it takes the different steps through, then we would go out to advertise, and that advertisement would go to the personnel board.
Well, that's, what-
but who
Yes.
does it if it's if it's not the personnel board, if it's internal,
If
who
it's
does it?
internal, it's whoever has the seniority.
Oh, it's
and-
just
Okay.
it's just
Yeah.
a
Union
list that's
position.
already
that's,
set
that
up.
was my question. If
Yeah.
it's an internal position, you don't have to go to the Personnel Board. They can just
But keep
apply
in
for
mind,
that
it's a
position.
part-time.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And we don't really have part-time workers here.
Me, I'm part-time. I go
Okay,
full-time.
so that was my motion.
So can you
Okay.
repeat your motion?
Want me to help?
Yeah, the motion was for Nancy to have permission to come up with a job description to be reviewed by the solicitor and to go forward with it.
For a part-time
Part-time
planning,
position for
zoning
planning, zoning,
clerk.
board clerk, yes.
I guess I'd go forward with union approval and advertisement if necessary.
With union approval and advertisement if necessary.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I second that long motion.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Very good. Unanimous?
Madam President, when we were discussing this position, one of the things that we discussed was finding a way to co-locate the building official and the new planner that we'll be hiring. And it makes sense if there's a clerk split between them. And while there's not a ton of budget money, at the very least, could we find a way to start investigating how in the building or potentially we could co-locate them and...
I think the idea of knocking down that wall is a good idea, and maintenance was supposed to see if we could do that. Maintenance was supposed to see if we can knock down that wall, and I volunteered to do it if I have to.
Knock down the wall?
Denise?
I'll volunteer to watch.
Madam President,
I'll ask the building official.
I'd like to make sure it's a licensed contractor that's knocking down walls, please.
Make sure he's got a permit.
I think we've got the sledgehammers.
We'll work on it.
But at some point, we're gonna need a plan, and if we do in fact get this person, we're gonna need a place for them to sit, and there's not a lot of space in there right now, so maybe we could work on that too.
That would be a request to the town administrator / interim town administrator. Very good. Mrs. Mello has it. Next item, Councilor LeBeau, discussion and possible vote to hire administrative officer to handle Twin River Tiverton LLC Casino. Mr. LeBeau.
Okay, my thought, now, is it all right if I speak to the attorney guy out there, Mr. Russo, while we do this?
You already did.
You can.
I don't want to break none of the rules. I don't know all the rule stuff you guys got going on over here.
Well, I think, Mr. Russo, if he could come up, I think Randy has an idea, and he'd like to share it and see how Twin Rivers.
I want you to pay the bill, so I would like you to sit there and listen.
I figured that might be.
Yeah, well, it's, I think it could benefit Twin River and Tiverton. So my idea was to put on a consultant, AO consultant, to handle Twin Rivers issue. I'm going to call it all the paperwork for Twin River. We have an intern AO right now, or a temporary. Yeah, Sue. And
Susan
it's
Gill.
overwhelming. This town's already overwhelming with the mountain of paperwork she has to do. So if the council can come up with a consultant, I'd like Twin River to pay the bill.
Well, let me start off by saying Susan Gill was handed a lot of work, and we've worked with her, and she's really dug in, so I compliment her on that. Under the zoning ordinance, we did commit to fund things that had to be done to try to make sure that we have a very thorough yet expeditious review. So we are willing to do that. I would just point out to the council that the attorney for the planning board that's been designated, I think largely because of our project, I don't know that for certain, but it seems that's what she works on. She is a planner by training, and she's currently being compensated from the escrow that we've set up, so that there may be some savings there to consider. I just throw that out for your thoughts.
Yep, and that's the person's name who came up a few times to take this, we would discuss here. So I don't know if the rest of the council they're not in my head, so they don't know what I was thinking. So.
I mean, that's obviously up to the council and the planning board, but the concept of us funding it, that is something we've contemplated.
Yeah, that's, the important thing is you pay the bill, that way, and then we'll get everything done, right.
Well, I think that Randy felt that way, that it wouldn't slow you down either, it'd help you move along rather than all the paperwork building up, so.
And there's a lot of paperwork.
Yeah, there's a ton of paperwork, and there's enough going on here, so
So, Madam President,
if we could just,
No.
we can, no, go ahead,
No.
go ahead. I'll say we
One at
guys
a
can
time,
discuss. No,
one at a
no,
time.
I was just going to say, discuss away.
so I just wanted to ask, because I knew Susan was here, so she's the interim AO, so she can just fill us in on that. But also, I wanted to ask the solicitor about the AO position. So I don't know which one of you guys want to go first. You want to
Ladies
tell us
before
how
John.
things,
Ladies before John.
okay.
Hi, Susan
But
Gale.
just to give us an update, because I know it's
Right.
you working on it, but it's also Kate is helping
Right.
out too.
I guess
so.
my thoughts are, one, that at the special meeting, Kate Michaud is designated to be the assistant to help me with the casino specifically, so that we've already kind of crossed that bridge. I feel like we've got Kelly Morris as our attorney, who also has background planning, and I have Kate, who helped me put the certificate of completeness together. I mean, the master plan has been completed, the decision has been written, and we're underway to do the preliminary plan. So basically, if you bring somebody new in at this point, 90% of the work's already going to be accomplished. For somebody that, if you brought in somebody from the outside who doesn't know the project, doesn't know the town, doesn't know our procedures. So that seems kind of like, I don't really understand that. Kelly, I think I don't know if there would be a conflict, her working as the planner and also as our solicitor advisor. I don't think you can have two administrative officers, because we discussed that when we talked with Kate about coming on board, but she's been making herself very available to me. The only other thought would be that would help me would be if the project was willing to fund a stenographer and then to transcribe that portion of it. That would help me compile the minutes in a more timely fashion, and I would be able to focus then on the meeting a little easier, because I'm still trying to act as a member of the planning board. At the same time, I'm trying to take notes, and I think that's a little more cost-effective use of some funds if they wanted to also have it videotaped to support that. But I think we're far enough along, and once we get through the preliminary plan and then the final plan, then basically, I think, as far as I can get, we're pretty much done with it. Then it goes to the building. So we're getting through it.
Are you saying so that 90% of the AO's work on this project is done, or just part of the
Well, I
project?
think it will be once we get through the preliminary plan, and I don't know if you could bring somebody on board before we got through most of that. And to bring somebody into this project, like 2/3 of the way through, just seems like, why would you do that to somebody else? Plus then they would be asking me, how do I do this, where do I find that?
Which would
I
take
just
away
don't
from
really
them.
see a point to doing it that way, but, that's my input on it, so. Okay.
But a stenographer would be a
Well,
big plus?
I think so, just because.
Trying to do the
It would
minutes.
that way it would make sure we get all the information. It would help us when we have to write the decision. That's very important, and it would just help me be able to be a little more participating, because I wouldn't have to take such copious notes during the course of the meeting. That would be,
So the
but
other-
I think that's less expensive than another planner.
But the other issue I wasn't sure of is about the AO, if there's, and could you speak to that?
Sure. So the AO is a position that's provided for by statute under the Subdivision and Land Development Enabling Act. It's also provided for in Tiverton subdivision regulations, and it's appointed by the council with the advice of the planning board. There's certain functions that are only done by the administrative officer by statute, such as signing on applications as being complete, certifying them complete, and at the end of the process, the final plan, there's 3 stages of review. The administrative officer has a role in signing off on those plans. The administrative officer is also tasked with enforcing the subdivision regulations. So if you were to get help for the administrative officer, you would only have one, because that would be the person with the duty to enforce the regulations. But you could do something that's sort of like a assistant to the administrative officer, similar to how a building official, Neil is the person that's charged with enforcing the building and zoning regulations. But if he needs to get some extra work to do inspections, they can do that, but they need to come back, report to Neil, and Neil has the final say, so.
So with all due respect, you're not an AO.
Right.
You're really not. I
I
mean,
know.
you don't have the authority to sign this stuff. We're jumping fences
No, well,
here.
the council did give me the authority to sign
Right.
for
But
it.
that doesn't-
But
that
what I'm
doesn't-
doing is I'm working with Kate.
Yeah, but Kate doesn't
To
work for us. She's
enforce-
volunteering. We need somebody
Right.
in this spot who can take care of it, sign everything off. We're not that far into it. We got a big, huge project here ahead of us. You got enough work to do with the stuff in town. How are we gonna go from, how are you gonna do all the things that the town needs for the AO and the casino? You just said it's overwhelming just the casino. All I wanna do is bring help into the town to make it easier.
Right.
That's all.
Randy, Susan was saying,
She's almost
the
done.
project's almost completed.
Well, the review of the application is complete. I mean, for the certificate of completeness. So now it's the beginning of the preliminary plan hearings, the public hearings, and that's the entire planning board. So now we go through all the information that they've given them, it's all the input, and it's the entire planning board now that.
So it's
that
not the
reviews
specific
it.
AO role that is
No,
being,
no,
it's the planning
no.
board
You know,
hearing
I will-
process.
I will get communications, if new information comes in, it's my responsibility to distribute information, emails, communicate with the different people, but the actual review process, that part of it is done. And usually, when you get to the final plan, the preliminary plan has all the heavy engineering, all the big stuff. The final plan is then just the modifications that come through the course of the hearing, and usually they're not as hefty as the preliminary plan. And they've been very good about getting us lots of information. And then it's my job to distribute it. So,
Yep.
I mean, it's still a workload. I just don't know if somebody that hasn't been involved to come in, how helpful that will be, or, I don't know.
So,
Madam President?
Randy,
It almost
I-
sounds to me like,
One at a
like
time.
if there's anything that could be a little bit helpful is that, you know, obviously the planning board hearings where Twin River is there,
Right.
it's important that the notes be accurate
Right.
and detailed.
Thorough.
It's, you know, not your sort of run-of-the-mill application.
Right.
So possibly some stenography help in taking those minutes so that they're accurate and available quickly would be helpful.
Right.
And does it sound to me like if there was potentially someone in the building who had a little bit of free hands, that you could use a little extra clerical help in maybe, is that the idea with, you know, sort of putting together packets or, like, is that what you're saying here?
No, I don't even know if I'm saying that. I mean, it's such a small space, and I've only been doing this for a week. I'm still trying to organize the office and make stacks and find things. Actually, my biggest problem is the computer, because I'm not as computer literate as I should be. So it just takes me longer. But usually what I do is I spend office hours here, and then I go home and I continue to work. I'm trying to catch up on a lot of things. But, I mean, we're getting there on the casino. I don't know if you find there's any big outstanding items that need to be handled that you feel like it would be worthwhile to bring someone else in. I mean, my other point is Kate has made herself available, and, you know, she's free. And she knows, she's done
She's
the plan.
volunteering. She's
Yeah,
volunteering.
she's volunteering. She's done big projects like this before. She knows our regs, she knows our zoning. I mean, you know, she knows the job, and then she directs me, you know.
So, Madam President,
Mr. Edwards was next.
Thank you. If I understood Peter correctly, it sounds like the AO can delegate a significant portion of the work to somebody else. If that is the case, and we have the attorney who's able to do so, I mean, if we're going to pay her more to take some of those tasks off of your plate and expedite that process, I mean, I think that almost sounds like that's what Councilor LeBeau is asking is, you know, if we're going to have the attorney do all of the legwork and then ultimately present it to you and you say, okay, yes, this is correct, here's my signature, and that would help you out and the rest of the planning board, you know, I think that's the question is, would Twin River be amenable to paying for that additional work for somebody that already is involved in the process and does know?
I don't know, I can't really think through how that would actually work, because they're already presenting me all the information. So then I just have to get it distributed, so I'm just not real sure. And whenever we start spending developers' money, they have to be agreeable to that. That's how it works for the planning board. We can't just dictate to them and saying, you have to pay for this when we do peer reviews or anything, because it's their money. We have to ask them if they're willing, if they're willing to pay for this and given, A, B, or C. So, we just can't write blank checks for developers.
I feel bad because, obviously you're a volunteer and you're spending a significant amount of time on this, so any opportunity we can to take some of that workload away from you and, obviously improve your quality of life and have you continue to volunteer, I think is a good thing.
Yeah, I
So-
just really can't say right now what would be the most effective thing for me, unless I had somebody that could do the computer. Because it's like I have plans, I go, I don't know how to get it from A to B.
No, I understand, but I
But-
appreciate what you're saying, Randy, because I think that you're just trying to keep it moving,
Right.
and I think that's great. No, but one thing, if Sue is saying 90% of the job is done, and if she asked Mr. Rousseau and you didn't have a problem with it, then I'm thinking, is it the AO that really needs to get, it doesn't seem like it's backed up, because if the job is almost done, then maybe it's not an AO that we need to help, maybe it's something else, and it's not really clear what is getting jammed, if anything is getting jammed, or it's just, is it slow? I'm not talking about the AO right now, but you see what I'm talking about? That it might not be the AO that you're thinking, it might be something else.
It's the process. It's just.
No, I'm
I mean,
thinking
it's
it
just
might
the
not
whole
be
process.
that the AO needs help because
Right.
you're almost done with it, but is there something else, in the building that needs more help? And actually, is there anything, is it just, is there a jam, a traffic jam, or is it just that things are a little bit slow? Because if you got 10% more to go.
Do we
Well,
know for
mostly.
sure it's 90% done?
No, I mean.
I don't want to throw
I'd
numbers
say
out that
no.
aren't
I'd say
true.
once the preliminary plan's done, I think it's getting close. But I mean, I'm saying we've done the certificate. I know this is all kind of abstract, but what we have now is the planning board's job to review the entire plan. That's not specifically something that's assigned to the AO, other than to document it, or if new information comes in, to distribute it. But it's like the heavy lifting was getting the plans in and going through them and writing the certificate.
Right, and you've already done that.
And then, Attorney Morris did the decision for the master plan that was completed.
But do you understand what I'm saying? Which I understand.
We're a little late on getting her help.
That's it. But also, it's like, what I'm afraid of is that it's going to go slower because of all the training that you have to do, and it's taken away from her. That's all. So it's like your idea, I think, is fine, but I'm just wondering if it's better to, and you guys are going to pay for it.
Well, they're gonna
What if they, no, they already said they would, and, so if we can say, okay, maybe that's not the place where we need to help, but maybe we need to help someplace else. That's all I'm suggesting, and all you can do is ask people if you need the help, and if it's gonna slow things up, you don't want that, right?
No, correct. And we also want it done 100% correct.
Yeah.
We can't miss
But
anything.
Kate, right,
This
Kate's
is
on
a
it.
massive corporation.
Yeah, we have
These
Kate
guys know
and
what they're
Kelly.
doing.
Yeah.
We don't want to miss anything. We got to make
Right.
sure everything is exactly as they promised, and Tiverton's going to get what they're promised.
Yeah.
And if we don't want to miss anything, again,
Right.
It's
we
Kate.
need...
Kate's right there.
Yeah, I know,
Right.
but
And
Kate
Kelly-
doesn't work for
Kelly
Tiverton.
Morris.
And Kelly,
Morris.
yeah.
Kelly-
But there's a team.
Yeah.
Okay.
So back to Susan's then original request.
Yeah.
As to whether or not, and maybe Mr. Russo doesn't need to give me an answer at this moment, but I do know how tedious the note-taking can be. And that would probably free up a fair amount of Susan's time if she didn't have to, transpose and rewrite those notes for this. Would it be possible out of that account to arrange for, someone else, if not a professional stenographer, but someone who
We've funded and had stenographers there at every hearing. The last hearing that we had, which happened to be Susan's first hearing as AO, We didn't have a steno there present because there was a scheduling issue.
Yeah.
But they're now transcribing it from the video, so we'll be able to get that to her.
Good.
And
No, it's in
so-
our interest to have a stenographer there,
Right.
too.
Okay.
Right.
And in that case, and I'm going to ask Peter, is that an acceptable version of the minutes would be the transcription from the applicant stenographer, or
As
no?
long as the minutes have the members who were present, the members who were absent, the day of the meeting, and the votes that were taken and who voted on it. That's sufficient.
Well, I would
minutes.
take that transcription, incorporate it into the entire minutes for the meeting. I
Okay,
would
so you'd
just-
still be responsible for the meeting minutes and.
Right, it was
have
just
those
that
specific
portion of
items.
it, because that's going to be, like, a
Right.
lot of different speakers and.
And you
know,
don't
a
have
lot
to
of
worry about it.
Information, then,
Yeah.
I mean, I will still take some notes,
Yeah.
but I, abbreviated notes, but I won't have to get, make sure I got everybody that comes to the podium, exactly their name and address and title and that kind of thing, so.
Okay, so it sounds like a plan. You'll have a stenographer there. and-
That's our practice, is to have somebody there,
And
yes.
if you can provide that to the administrative officer so that we can double-check our notes and make sure everything is documented properly. Is that agreeable?
I just have one more question.
Yes, to Mr. LeBeau.
Everything that Sue signs, she sign it as a AO, or do we have, so she's, even though she's not a licensed AO, her signature is okay?
It's not a
There's,
license,
There's no licensing requirements for the administrative officer.
it's an appointment.
It's just,
So it's legal, everything she signs, every document Sue Gill signs is
Because
is
we
legal.
appointed her.
Because we appointed her.
Yes.
We
So
gave
it's just
her
an
permission to
appointed
do that.
position?
Yes.
Yep,
Okay, yeah, I'm good.
very good.
Okay, thanks.
So,
Thank you, Mr. LeBeau.
do you want to,
Item,
or we just let it go?
I don't
Just let
know.
it go?
Let it go for now.
You just let it go?
he's going to do, the Twin River is going to have the stenographer and provide transcripts?
No, I know.
To the AO?
But we don't need to do this then. This is like a possible vote to begin hiring process.
Correct.
Right, so we just let it go. That's what I mean.
Correct.
We just let it
We
go.
we already had a agenda item where we approved going out for an administrative officer. I don't believe
Yeah,
that's
right.
been advertised yet, but we're getting close to having that advertised.
Yeah, okay.
There's a lot of different ones to put into it.
Right.
But we are getting close to it.
Okay, so we've already done that.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
okay.
okay, item G6, DPW Director William Anderson, brief update on trash contract for fiscal year 2017, 2018.
Thank you, Madam President, Council. Can I pass just a summary table out?
It goes this way.
Hopefully, this will be brief. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but we received our bids on trash curbside collection services on the 28th. This is for a 3-year contract to coincide with the landfill eventual closure, with the necessary extensions in 1-year increments should we have to extend it. We received 4 bids from MTG Disposal, Waste Management, Patriot Disposal, and Republic Services. When you look at the table, what I've highlighted in yellow is if we continue doing the services as we're doing now, MTG is our apparent low bidder right now. This all will be fully reviewed with the landfill subcommittee. We're looking at $666,000 to do the services just as we do right now. That's about a $141,000 increase over our current, $141,000 increase over our current budget for FY18. Our current cost this year are about $540,000. If we're looking at manual, other options with that, how I priced it or asked for quotes, if we're looking for manual trash pickup, as we do now, with automated biweekly recycling, Waste Management appears as our parent low bidder at $645,480. Again, if we do automated trash and recycling, biweekly on the recycling, automated on the trash, Waste Management, a little bidder at $639,391. However, when I say automated, that doesn't include the cart costs that we would have to do, which is about $45 a cart or about $300,000 per cart, one for trash and one for recycling. However, now I asked for the vendor to supply, if they supplied the carts, what would that be? So if we went with manual trash pickup, automated recycling, and the vendor to supply the carts, Waste Management again's the parent low bidder at $736,560. So that's a little bit less, that's about $297,000 for the recycling carts alone, financed over 3 years of the length of the contract. And then the last one was the automated trash and recycling carts for both. That's about $819,560. Again, carts are included in that price, which is about $255,000 for the recycling carts and about $285 for the trash, or vice versa. I'm sorry. But either way, so if we stay as we are, $141,000. If we go to the automated, at least on the biweekly site recycling, we're about $114,391, not including the cart cost.
And the
our
cart cost is $95,000?
For, yeah, 95,000, it'll be, well, 95,000 a year, so, but if we buy it directly, it's gonna cost the town $300,000 at the time we buy it, which is about $45 per cart per household.
Now, items 1 and 2, that's weekly.
That's correct, that's exactly what we do right now.
Did you look at this bi-weekly?
Bi-weekly on the recycling, if we do that, we're gonna have to, that's when you have to go to a 96-gallon tote, because there's just not enough room in our 22-gallon blue totes right now to hold everything. The residents won't have enough room to put all of their recyclables for a 2-week period into that little tote. That's why when most,
But
yeah,
they could buy their own.
they could buy their own tote, correct.
So I don't know how many gallons they are. The big blue ones that we have with the wheels.
64-gallon right now.
64 gallons.
Correct.
Which some of us have for recycling right now, if we bought one, right?
Correct.
So if we went to, this is my question, if we went to, biweekly recycling, and we allowed people to either, if they wanted to, buy one of those from the DPW or whatever, or said, you can go out, you can get your own as long as it's not bigger than 64 gallons, because I'm guessing that's the limit on how big a thing that a person can pick up.
Correct,
Right,
correct.
a
Yes,
man.
for a manual
manual.
collection, correct.
So, if you said to folks, look, if you want bigger than the recycling bins that you have now, if you need more recycling space than that, you can get your own 64-gallon bin at wherever you like. We'll give you a sticker for it that says recycling. I mean, is that a possibility?
Why wouldn't it be? Because that's what we're doing now.
Madam President?
That's a manual pickup, though. That's not the automated. That's
It's
manual.
not, but it wouldn't, but if it was every other week and it didn't involve buying the
I
bins.
can ask, again, I can ask the vendors, I can ask the vendors what that price would be if we would try and do it manually. But again, it wasn't in the exact bid, but I can ask the vendors to see what that price might be if we went to bi-weekly.
Mr. Edwards?
Just to lend some context to this discussion, because I don't believe Councilor Hilton was at the landfill committee meeting that we discussed this. Well, first off, those 64-gallon containers are no longer around. But secondly, when we went back to Patriot and we asked them if we could go to bi-weekly to find some savings, there was no savings to be had. So there was no savings to be had. I mean, look at the numbers that we received from Patriot. They were by and large the high bidder across the board. And in reality, what are we really going to be stripping out of that cost structure? There's not much there.
Well, it would be a truck that wouldn't be in town every week.
No, if we go to bi-weekly recycling, what they're going to do is they're going to pick up half the town one week, half the town next week, but that you're still getting the same trucks over the 5-day period. Because you're not changing, you're still going to have your recyclables picked up on the same day as your trash. So half the town will be on the other bi-weekly cycle. Right, so you're still going to have 2 trucks a week coming through the town.
Madam President?
Yes, Mr. Edwards?
I think that this exercise, definitely brings up a couple of questions, and obviously, our prior administrator is not here to address one of those, which is why $525,000? It seems like that was a number that was just picked out of thin air. And then the second question I have, and it's more of a rhetorical question, I think, at this point, because there's no members of the Budget Committee here tonight, but the Budget Committee is tasked with doing their due diligence on the entire budget, and I'm just, I'm at a loss of words that they missed this.
They didn't miss it, though, because the town administrator said that's what it would cost. And I talked to him.
But again, it's not incumbent upon them to just take somebody at their word. They go and they do site visits, and they interact with department heads, and they just completely whiffed on this.
We're getting off topic here. So we have an issue. We have not enough money in the budget for fiscal year 17-18, and we need some options. And it sounds like biweekly might not be an option on the recycling. There would be no cost savings.
I'm still not sure why. I'm still not sure why we would have to have recycling trucks more than 2 weeks a month. You know, if they pick up the entire town's recycling in 1 week, which they do now.
Correct.
Why is it that they'd have to come the next week? Why couldn't they skip a week and then come back and pick up the entire town's recycling?
Because it's separate.
If I may.
Yeah, well, I could answer that.
I was just going to say, I mean, if you're somebody who recycles every week like I am, I mean, you put out some recycling, but now if I have to wait 2 weeks and I have a massive amount of recycling, it's going to take the guys a little bit longer to collect.
You're going to basically fill up an entire recycling truck with half the town, because everyone's holding off
Twice as
week,
long.
so you're getting twice as much. So that truck is going to be out there every week, but only picking up half the town, picking up double the recycling, basically what it's doing. We're not generating anymore. I mean, we may, when you give people a bigger bin, they sometimes start generating more recyclables.
Right, although, for some reason, and again, the former town administrator is not here, but there was some discussion about the fact that the recycling trucks, I'm not sure if weren't full is the right way to put it, but that
was the way.
They weren't filling a truck.
they weren't filling the recycling trucks.
That was only on one or two of the routes, I believe, because again, this was discussed at the landfill committee meeting, and that was on one or two of the routes and primarily the south end of town. However, the north end of town, where the bulk of our residents live, those trucks are being filled.
Generally, what you're seeing is on a Friday, where they're doing most of the southern end of town, you're getting probably like 3/4 of a truck. You know, that's why one of the things that was asked if they could do it in 4 days rather than 5 days. Every one of the vendors came back with 5 days still.
But suppose we say, well, we want you to do it in 4 days. We're not giving you.
They'll probably increase the price.
The prices might go up, but you're not going to give them an increase, I mean, I gave them an option to say if they could do it in 4 days and show a savings, they could do it in 4 days. They all came back and said 5 days.
Okay, so this doesn't even include the totals doesn't include yard waste pickup, right?
Correct, which we're doing right now, and it seems to be actually working right now. We've been able to, so far on Fridays and with a little overlap on Monday, we've been able to do it for the last 3 weeks with our trucks.
We used to do it in the past all the time.
We have our last pickup on this Saturday.
Okay, so that's good news.
Right.
Now, as far as the bins go, is there any money in resource recovery that we could pull?
Not
to buy
$300,000. And they're not offering any grants right now for
No
resources, no. We've gotten some money in the past for, I guess, for our fees we collected or the profit sharing, but there's not $300,000 in a budget right now, or an account that I'm aware of.
What are the bins per household? I forgot what you said.
The bins, it's $45 for one bin, basically. Between $40 and $45, depending on the size.
And the residents could always buy them.
Correct.
Well,
Yeah, they're probably not going to spend they're not going to get that price if you go to Humphreys or Home Depot. I know that because I've heard back from certain residents who go there. But, I mean, you know, again, the bins, if we had to, I could buy them separately, and we just have to, you know, that's a discussion, that further discussion with council on how do we pay for that.
Well, Madam President.
The last time we bought the 64-gallon, I believe we bought them, but the residents paid a part of it, whether it was a half or whatever, they paid a percentage. Maybe that we've just got to look for where we can find money. How much is in resource recovery?
That I'd have to find out.
All right, so,
How much in 40,000?
A little bit more, I think.
Okay.
And I was gonna use that for something else, but.
Madam President?
4,000?
No, 40,000.
40,000?
Yeah, 48. Where's Denise? She knows.
Mr. Edwards?
I would also just like to add that again, the recycling committee and landfill committee did meet and discuss this at length. And one of the primary concerns with forcing residents to buy their own barrels is the rollout of the program. You know, if we have somebody come in for automated recycling pickup, it's a specific type of barrel. They can't just go and, pick something up at Home Depot. And more importantly, if you do not have that barrel, then your recycling does not get picked up. So the only real way to make this program work effectively, and the only real way it's worked effectively in other communities, is for either the municipality to foot the bill and distribute all of the barrels at the same time to the residents, or for the vendor to do so and finance it on the contract. There is no way that our residents are all going to have, if we say the drop dead date is July 31st or whatever it is, September 1st, if we say you got to have this recycling bin by then, all we're going to do is force his office into fielding phone calls saying, why are my recycling items not being picked up? Because not everybody's going to go out and get those bins.
Which would deter me from going automated, to tell you the truth, because I don't think that everyone will comply. And it's not that much more.
I mean, the only true way to automate this is the company not only brings them in, but they deliver it to every household. Take a
Correct.
scan, they actually get scans of showing that which was dropped off, because every bin has its own serial number. We'll get a list and we'll know that everybody, and unfortunately, you have to distribute one to every household in the town. You can't just just the people that use the service, you have to give one to everyone in the town.
Correct.
We're talking like $21,000.
For 300, so it'll be 6,600 residents, that's the number that we put in the bid. It's probably a little less than that, but you're probably looking at $300,000 is what the cost for those bins would be.
Madam President,
Mr. LeBeau?
without the bins, how much did the trash pick go up? If we just stayed where we are.
$141,000.
So we're talking 141,000 plus the 300,000 for the bins?
No.
Or 100,000 a year for the bin?
No, if we stay with just the manual pickup as we're doing right now, it's only $141,000. There is, because the residents will continue to use the 22-gallon size buckets they have now, or whatever buckets the 64-gallon that was available.
So basically, that's the cheapest way out?
Yes.
Stay as we are, let these guys bend down, pick up the bins, and we got to come up with 141 grand.
Basically.
To get our trash picked up.
Yes.
Yeah, more than what we did last year.
Yes, that's what.
Well,
I-
there's
and
no
that's
sense
what
in
I
even
was
talking
saying.
about them bins because we can't afford them.
Well, that's what I was saying. I would like to stay with item number 1 and 2 instead of going item 1 and 6, because that just seems a lot more complicated and a lot more expensive at this point.
For at least for the next contract, until we can figure out something else.
Right.
How long would this contract be for, Bill?
Till the landfill basically closes.
Which is?
Right now, if we get another license renewal, that'll be another 3 years. Plus, this has a renewal period built into it, should we wish to extend it beyond that. If we find more life or whatnot, and we go for another license renewal.
I think it's something to think about and put on the next agenda.
Yeah,
Well,
this,
We gotta figure out.
We need to take a vote, on the next agenda as far as which way we're going to go.
Right.
So my,
That's a significant problem.
Right.
I mean, in a budget where there is no wiggle room left.
so just one last question. So, under waste management, you have items 1 and 6, and it's basically $645K.
Yep.
And that, number 6 is automated recycling, which
Correct.
means they need the bins.
Correct.
Now, is that 95K below, is that the bins?
Now, you would have to go with 1 and 7, and what the cost would be if they supply the bins at $736,560. Because you're paying basically you're paying them back in 3 years for the cost of the bins.
What we have now is 1 and 2, correct?
Right.
Correct.
So that's MEGA?
Mega, yeah, MTD, Mega, correct.
That's the one we have right now.
So what's the purpose of the 95K?
Just to give you an idea, I wanted to see what the cost, what their cost would be if they were supplying the bins as opposed to the town having to buy the bins directly. And that's actually a little cheaper than Waste Management's prices seems to be a little cheaper than what we could get it for based on the pricing.
It's funny that Waste Management is cheaper all the way down except for 1 and 2.
Because most of what Waste is doing, most towns are doing the automated pickup.
Most of their trucks are automated. That's why they have to.
All right, I get it.
Plus, the biggest difference is Waste is going with natural gas trucks compared to everything else, which is diesel.
Madam President, is it too late to amend the budget? Is the budget in, it's done? Because we're only talking 41 cents. 41
It
cents.
doesn't matter. It's, you can't amend the budget.
You can't do that, but I think we just have to.
We have to think on this and.
Take the money
on
from the-
next agenda.
Well, I'm taking it, I'm just going to discuss it again with the landfill subcommittee on Thursday, bring it to you for a vote on the 22nd.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll have the casino guy over there pay the bill.
He's gonna want.
We gotta get something from him.
Mark, get your checkbook out.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you, Bill.
Mark, he's killing you tonight, huh? He's killing you.
All right, next up is G7, Twin River of Tiverton LLC. Mr. LeBeau?
Yes.
7A, approval of request for proposal for third-party review, and 7B, approval of agreement with Twin River Tiverton LLC and Town of Tiverton regarding building permits.
Madam President, members of the council, Mark Russo, lawyer guy, casino guy, whatever you want to call me.
Casino
Money guy.
lawyer guy.
Checkbook.
I think
The checkbook guy.
As the council's aware, when we started the conversation on the casino, there were a number of commitments that were made. And one of those commitments was if you're going to make the transition from Newport, what's the time frame? And we've discussed that many times with the collective goal of July of 2018. And I think that based on another agenda item that Councilman LeBeau had on, that building official's office is a very busy place. And we talked to Mr. Hall early on about the concept of a third-party construction plan review and third-party inspections of construction and how he would like to handle that. And he did some research on that. And we talked in regard to putting out an RFP, if the council's so inclined, to have a firm, at our expense, do those construction plan reviews and inspections, work with the solicitor's office on a form of RFP for you to consider. And that's what's before you now. I think if you were inclined to go that route, we'd probably go through this one more time with the solicitor's office and the building official's office, and then figure out what you do in your normal process for advertising. We'd work in conjunction with the building official's office to qualify some bidders. The concept of this, per the state law, is set forth. I mean, obviously, money will be an issue, but it's a qualified-based RFP, because you want the right people who have had experience in these size commercial projects, et cetera, and can meet certain timeframes. Because, again, the theme has been repeated, tonight, is a thorough review to make sure everything is done right, as you said, and that's been our mantra, but to go fast. And that's the concept here, is to bring in some help for that office to be able to help that office with the reviews and the field inspections.
Okay, Ms. Peter,
I've reviewed it, and there's really no issues. It's a very thorough RFP. So basically, this would work as similar to what Mr. LeBeau was speaking about. This would allow the town to seek firms or consultants that would assist Neil. Neil would still have the ultimate authority for signing off on the building and zoning aspects, but they would be his eyes and ears and give him people to go in and inspect and do a real thorough job. The RFP has insurance qualifications for liability concerns, so I don't see issues with the RFP itself.
Neil?
I was going to say, who picked the consultant? Neil would recommend. And we-
Hi,
about to
Neil.
find out.
They know.
Good evening.
Hi, Neil.
Hello. Good evening.
Have you had a chance to review this RFP?
Yes, I have.
Any concerns?
No, I actually did a little homework. As Mark had said, we've met a couple of times with
Yeah.
the developers, Mark himself, and some of the, as you know, the people regarding the, some of the site work. Mark and I early on had this discussion, and I think it's a great idea. The town is going to continue to move in the fashion it should. I have dealt with buildings this big when I was in a different municipality, but I had a lot of help with me.
Yeah.
I think it's important, and some of the things that I've done is I've gone out and I've reached out to the Everett building official in Massachusetts who's dealing with the wind project right now.
Yeah.
And they dealt with it the same way. They basically put it to an RFP because their building department just can't handle it, as he put it. And that's a casino that's much bigger than this. But with that being said, everything would still be signed by me. It would be, this person would be on site every day doing inspections as need be. The town, I believe, would still, benefit from the permit. We would pay this person out. I know one of the companies that was dealing with the wind project had sent me some of the qualifications of the guys that were inspecting, and they're all international building inspectors. So they all have to be licensed. They're all licensed building officials, and I think it's the right way to go. It's going to proceed in the fashion that it should, moving the way that the state law provides it to be.
Very good. Any questions from the council? Mr. Perry?
I just wanted to know who, would he recommend who was going to do this to us, and then we would vote on it? Or is this something that's going to be?
This is an RFP that goes out for advertisement.
Right.
And people would have to respond to the RFP.
Right.
And there are companies across the country that actually
But-
inspect casinos.
Yeah, but what I was saying, would Neil look at those and then say to us, here's who I think you should go with? That's what I'm saying. He would recommend to us.
Who exactly is selecting
Right.
the winning bid? That's the question.
So this is an RFP for, it's a qualified bidder RFP, not just the lowest bidder.
Right.
And there's some criteria that's laid out in the RFP, but essentially it would be, you decide who's qualified, but you take advice from your building official who would.
Ultimately be working with
And the
this person.
solicitor, okay. That's what I wanted to know.
Yep.
We would look to Neil for his expertise and say, right.
Madam President,
Mr. Edwards?
I move approval of the RFP for third-party review for Twin River LLC.
Wait.
You can discuss it. You can discuss
We
it.
can discuss.
Discussion?
You can discuss
Yeah,
it.
so just the dates, do you want to give us an idea because the dates are off, right?
Yeah, that has to be fixed, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, what are you thinking? Like a couple of weeks, or I'm assuming you want to move fast on this, so I just wanted to know where.
Well, I think we have the luxury of a little time on this. If
Okay.
the council's inclined to approve it tonight, I would
Yeah.
probably talk with the building official and figure out what is a reasonable time to qualify some bidders, do some advertisement. But
Okay.
it's not, we got on this early,
Yep.
so we're not in a a fevered rush to get it done and not cull through some good candidates.
Okay, so does the advertisement, is that going to be, you're going to do the advertisement, or you're going to suggest something and then the town does it?
We do the advertisement.
Yeah, but these guys have the expertise and that kind of stuff as well,
We
and
would-
the time.
We would work with Neil's office to
Okay.
try to put together a draft, but he would
Okay.
obviously have the final say, or the
Okay.
council would have the final say over
Okay.
however you typically do it, I don't know.
But the deadline would just have to change.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, they
this
would
is just a
change that,
draft,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So what would
Okay.
be a reasonable deadline for this?
Yeah.
Why don't we put it on next meeting?
And we can keep the same 2-week
So it's not a draft.
period,
Sure.
if that works.
Is that all right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we
Is that all right
would,
with the council? We have a motion
2
on the
weeks.
floor.
2 weeks, enough time?
Madam President, we would actually come back with the ad for the council to approve the ad. Is that how it works procedurally? Okay, thank you.
So may I ask Neil a couple more questions? So just to be clear, the final RFP will be approved by the town council, but you will approve specifically the language in here of what you are looking for?
Yes.
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 And the decision on choosing those inspectors rests solely with the town, correct? I mean, with all due respect to Mr. Russo, Twin River will not be participating in the selection of these.
I believe, I have never seen this in action, but I don't believe it'll be an individual inspector. It'll be a company that's insured, that'll have all the proper licensing that will back us. It'll be my employee, not his employee.
And ultimately, you will be supervising their work, and
Yes.
you will be actually the one who's signing off.
I will be on the site. This person, I believe, if this proceeds the way I see it, and I've talked to also the building inspector in Lincoln, they know what they're doing, they move pretty quick. I know some of the companies that I've already talked to Mark about, their names that we're familiar with, I'm familiar with, companies that do things the correct way. I see this person being there full-time, me stopping in, spot check. This person's gonna be there every day watching concrete pours, steel going up, whatever it may be.
And just to make people who might be watching here or at home, these are licensed professionals whose license would be on the line if they didn't do their job in the correct and proper way.
Yeah, they're obviously international building officials, just like me, whether they're retired or they've gone into the private sector. I've looked at resumes, and they're all licensed. And in speaking to a few guys, like I said, in Everett, the building officials, they felt it was really, it's been going well for them because they can continue their job. They've got this company that's come in and working the wind project. They check in on it. It's been going smoothly.
Mr. Edwards, would you be willing to withdraw your motion?
Sure.
And we'll have an updated advertisement for next meeting with a firm date for advert, for response.
For response, yes.
Is that agreeable? Okay.
The only thing I want to add is, and I want to just continue with the process, is to make sure that the route sheet that we have been requiring for all commercial buildings is also included in this. So it would have to be signed off by all departments.
That would make sense.
Thank you.
Thank you, Neil.
Thank you, Neil.
The second item is approval of agreement with Twin River Tiverton LLC and Town of Tiverton regarding building permits.
Yes, Madam President, members of the council, there was a discussion a few minutes ago about the process, and it is an involved process, and we have to try to do things that allow us to be creative with schedule, but yet still go through the entire process, and this is one of those techniques. I mean, I sat and didn't say anything because it's not my role to say if there's a holdup. The planning board process is very involved, and there's only so many times a month the planning board can meet. So that's why what we've proposed here is to take advantage of a state law and an ordinance that allows very limited foundation construction to take place through a special permit issued by the building official's office, if you're so inclined to authorize him to do that, at our risk. And there's a couple of features in here I want to point out. One of them is we've specifically defined what that special permit foundation work is and what it is not, and that's at page 2, paragraph 3. And the special permit foundation work is defined as what would be done to allow us to install foundation footings, walls, and the retaining walls to hold those. What it is not, in the next subsections, we can't do slabs, we can't do above-grade construction. The planning board has a condition in place until at least preliminary plan that we can't do building construction or major infrastructure. It's just that limited foundation work. The other thing that in discussions with the solicitor's office from a legal standpoint is that the agreement was drafted such that we acknowledge that if through the planning board process, what we've done has to either be enhanced or changed, or we don't get our permit and we have to take it out, which is defined as a remedial action in here, that's our risk and our expense, and we would have to show that plan to the building official. We might have to get a surety bond for it. We would have to indemnify the town. I don't expect that to happen. I mean, that would not be a good day for myself, but might have a client a little upset. But, I mean, we've made that commitment in here. So what it allows us to do is to stay on track, on schedule, while we go through a thorough process, doing some things at our risk that are allowed to be done under the law. And we're looking for the council to authorize the building official's office to do that outside of the normal building permit process.
Peter.
Peter?
Yep, so essentially, what this agreement does, Mark has laid out for you what they're looking to do, and I believe they've made a waiver request in their planning board application that they want to get the foundation permit before their preliminary plan approval is done. Well, if they're gonna do that, this agreement, which we think it's important, is that it will require them to agree that if anything goes wrong, if they put something in and then later it doesn't comply with the ultimate approval, they need to fix it, and we're not liable for it, and we're indemnified for it. So that gives the town on those areas as they proceed with their permitting process.
Just one point of clarification from what the solicitor stated. We wouldn't be looking for a waiver from the planning board on this because it's just the very limited construction that we had put a request for waiver. We withdrew that. This is a more limited scope of what we do, just under the special permit. We're not seeking to do anything with the restriction that the planning board has placed on until at least preliminary plan.
Madam President.
Mr. Edwards?
I just have a quick question, I guess, for the solicitor. If this is something that is acceptable under the state law and also acceptable under our ordinances, why are we here discussing that today if the building official has the power?
It's not usual. It's not, so the ordinary course would be someone would go through the permitting process, they'd receive the final approval, and the reason they would do that is because they'd consider it to be in their interest that they want to make sure everything gets approved before they do anything because they don't want to spend the money. Now, this applicant wants to do something different and do something that would probably cost a significant amount of money before they have final approval. There's a risk involved, and we just want to make sure that that risk isn't allocated on the town. It's allocated to the person that wants to take the risk, and that's Twin River.
So this, in effect, is protecting the town and making sure that they are solely responsible for any issues, any remediation. If anything goes wrong, the Twin River is responsible.
Yes, Twin River would be.
Madam President,
Mr. LeBeau?
I have a question for the lawyer guy. Everything that you're looking for right now, this your pre-foundation plan, that's according to the plans that you have in place. You're just taking a shot that you're going to put them in. You just want to put these walls and these footings in.
Correct.
But per plan, not per, this is not like a whim. You're just going to put them where they're going to go,
Right.
knowing that the plan will be approved, like 99% sure that the
They-
plan will be approved before you go spend that money.
Yes, and they have to be stamped by our structural engineer and provided to Mr. Hall so he can review that as part of the process. And I think to respond to Councilman Edwards also, I think the building official's office wanted to make sure that they, even though it's in the law, this is, a high-profile project in town, wanted to make sure that he was authorized to do so. And we've met, the building official.
Mr. Hall? Come on down.
But I
So
don't want
basically-
to speak for him, but
Yeah.
I think it's important to have separate authority so that his office is covered.
Right, so if you had the final approval, this is exactly what you would be doing.
Correct.
So you're just doing it, you're just trying to speed up a step.
Correct. And adding to that, if something happened during the approval where our final approval required either some modification or change to that, we don't then go to the building official's office and say, oh, come on, you can't make us do that, because, I mean, we're saying we'll do it. We're just,
You'll make the
It's at our
modification to make the final plan. Okay. Mr. Hall, you've reviewed?
Good evening again. So, I guess there's, it's funny because I guess I'm known for not giving foundation permits. And there's a reason for it, because most of the time, people do not submit the proper documentation for me to issue just a foundation permit. Foundation permits, I believe, and been in this a while, were really put into the building code for a couple of reasons. One of them is when a contractor goes into an area and he's going to do 40 houses and he's heading into winter, he might want 5 foundations in the ground, ready to go for his framers to just go from one to the next, to the next, to the next. So the proper way to do that is to give me full documentation of what you're going to build, and then I issue just a foundation permit. That I have no problem with. So if I get documentation of what they're building, I don't have a problem giving a foundation-only permit. This protects the town, so in the situation, something does happen, and we have concrete out there, this spells out that they will pay to remove it, all the site work, and to put it back to, I forget, Lumen Seed. So this does protect the town. At the same time, I need documentation. I need to see what they're building, because as I've said in the past, people come to me and I want a foundation only. What are you building? It's coming, don't worry, it's coming. Well, I don't know what you're building. I can't possibly do that. And the state law says, all documents in place, so I see it as that.
And that's what this has in here.
Yes. I mean, this basically,
to that.
from what I've read, and I just received this the other day, but I read through it thoroughly twice today, and again, allowing to install footings, foundation wall, and retaining walls. No slabs. I understand, and again, from the limited plans I've seen, that there's a pretty good-sized parking garage, from what I gather. Again, I know what goes into parking garages. CVS in Cumberland did one that was only 2 stories, and there's a lot of concrete that gets poured in those things. So, and I believe, in speaking to Mark, this is going to be very similar, where some of it's going to be underground. You're not going to see this obnoxious parking garage, and that's one of the things CVS did in their corporate building that was rather nice. So the appearance is, when you come in, most of it's underground, you don't see it, but there's a lot of concrete in there, and the footings are going to be substantial.
Okay. And it is in here in 3C that Twin River Tiverton shall submit to the building official plans. So it's
Certified by a structural engineer, right
Yep.
there. I mean, that pretty much covers us, that it's, I mean, they're going to give me the documentation for what they're building, and, rightly so. And like I said, for the stigma that I don't give foundation permits, that's not correct. It's when all documents are in hand.
very good.
Madam President?
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Edwards?
Sure. I'd like to move approval of the agreement with Twin River Tiverton LLC and the town of Tiverton regarding the building permits.
As identified in G7B.
No public opinion, folks. Listening?
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Can anybody from the public talk? For discussion? Is it open for discussion?
Well, it hasn't been posted for public discussion tonight, so it was only posted for approval of the agreement, so it's only a limited.
Speak up, please. Yeah, speak up.
It wasn't posted for public discussion on the agenda tonight, so that would be.
At this point, I will take a few comments, but please make them brief. If there's anyone out there from the public.
People that don't know they need to be here.
Hi, I just have one question that I just want to be clear, or I want to understand. So where the foundation is that where the same place as the blasting is going to be? that's what I'm trying to figure out. If you, where you want to do the foundation is also where the blasting is, so you have to get the blasting done before you can do the foundation, right? So that's like a big process to undertake, to put the town, or you at risk for, but I don't know. It just seems like granting waivers, and I don't know if the council has the authority. That's not me. I mean, should answer to that. I don't know if the council has the authority to authorize the building official to sign something. I think, is it?
This is not a waiver. This is state law that
Right.
gives the applicant this option.
To authorize, but I thought he was asking the council to authorize the building official to grant the permit.
I think he's just letting them know about this.
Well, it's them indemnifying the town as this agreement, so, I mean, if they can leverage this under state law and not have to indemnify the town, like, why wouldn't we take the deal?
Well, the blasting will have been done, and a lot of land will have been disturbed if it doesn't go forward, so that's a lot to fix.
Well,
But
I mean,
just so
with
you
all
know,
due
the planning
respect, the
board's
land
been-
is going to be disturbed. There will be a
Right.
casino. The
Right.
residents voted.
Right, unless it, so the planning board's position has been that no construction should take place until the preliminary plan has been approved. So I know that the footings and the foundation is separate from that, but just so you know, we're on the record that that's been our position, that it shouldn't be premature to the final approval of the preliminary plan when all the engineering has been presented and verified and public discussion and formal review.
Isn't that what you have to?
Yeah,
protect?
if I could just respond, I
Yep.
think what Susan has pointed out is actually, well, at least from my perspective, is a positive thing, because she's correct. There's a sequence of work that would have to take place out there before we get to foundations. My hope is that the planning board will be in position to hopefully deliberate and maybe make some decisions before we get there, and it's less of a risk that we're going to do something that's not going to be approved. That's number one. And then number two, she's absolutely correct. There, as I said, there is a restriction on, we cannot do building construction or major infrastructure until preliminary plan approval, and we put that right in the agreement. And I did run it by. On April 26th, we had a meeting with the planning board, and I did explain this, what we were seeking, so it's not.
And just to clarify,
Yeah.
one point, and I think Council Edwards did make this point, that they're relying on state law to request the permit. What this does, and why our office felt it was necessary to put this in front of you, was to get the protection, just to put it on the record that any risk that's taken by Twin River is Twin River's risk and not the town's risk. So
Okay.
that's the purpose of this.
So what you're saying is they can do this per state law? They
Right.
don't need our permission to do this?
And they cited the state law sections in the agreement.
I saw it.
Yeah.
So even if we approve this tonight, you're not going to go start tomorrow?
No.
So this is just to get your ducks in a row so that when the timeline falls into place and you have what you need from the planning board, then you can proceed with this, using this to get your approval from the building official.
Yeah, in order to proceed with this, a couple of things have to happen. One is that we have to have, our DEM permit has to be approved. We then have to have our soil erosion sedimentation control plan for the entire site approved by the town, which all this is in process, and we're trying to do as much in parallel as we can. While that's all going on, the town planning board obviously is deliberating over a preliminary plan. But if DEM were to approve our permit, and we got our soil erosion sedimentation control plan, that would then allow us to do the blasting, which we need a permit from the state fire marshal's office to do that, which we then provide a copy to Nancy's office. And then we would then move to foundations. So if something got held up at the planning board level, we could still keep the project moving forward at our risk.
Okay.
That's the plan.
Mr. Russo, do you need the special permit in order to get your blasting permit?
No, blasting is a separate operation, but it wouldn't make, it would be difficult to do the blasting without knowing that we could get a special permit, because you have to sequence the job in a certain way, or else you'll have people in and out of there, and, I mean, it's just,
Right.
you'd be pouring money out the window. and not spending it on constructive things.
Casino man.
Oh, yeah.
And may I ask one more question? Is there a ballpark on the preliminary plan decision from the planning board from a time frame point of view?
So from the date of the certification of the preliminary plan application, and I'm not sure when that date was, but you have 120 days for approval by the planning board, absent an extension granted by the applicant.
So 4 months.
So
Yes.
how far are we into the?
We've had our first session of a public hearing. I would think we'll probably have to have at least another public hearing to complete our presentation.
Yeah.
And then hopefully sometime after that, I would hope sometime in June, the planning board would be in position to deliberate over our preliminary plan, but I can't speak for them. I mean, that's our hope, but I don't know if that'll be the case.
So is it the time clock started at the first?
It started as
Session?
soon as the administrative officer signed off on the certifying the application as complete. So prior to the first, I'm not sure when the date was. Okay, so September 1st is the deadline for planning board action. And if no action is taken prior to that date and no extension is granted, it's approved as a matter of law. So that's the deadline.
And I'll tell the council and the planning board the same thing. I mean, appreciative of their time and that it's a mountain to move here with all the paperwork, but we have to go faster than that. So we'll be pushing to get it done before September, obviously.
Yes?
Liz Colbert, 430 Nanaquacket Road. I'm just wondering if there's any precedent for this. Has the town granted approval to other major projects without people having, the projects having proper approval, letting them, I mean, I know you're indemnified, but what happens, say Twin River says they did it the way they think they're supposed to do it, and then you think they didn't do it, and aren't you setting yourself up for some future legal battles, even if?
No, that's what this is, to protect the
Yeah,
town.
this
But,
protects us
right,
from
it
that
protects them,
happening.
but say
It
they.
protects us.
No, it protects us, the town.
The town.
And
It
you,
doesn't
the
protect
taxpayer.
them. They're taking the risk.
Right, but say they go ahead,
Yeah.
and they think they're doing it according to what you required, so they're not gonna indemnify you, because they said, we did do it the way, you know.
Master plan.
Why are you giving them something, have you given that to anybody else?
We haven't
I mean, this
had
is
a major, we haven't had a major project in town like
So
this.
why is it?
It's
why
under,
is it-
it's under state law. They have the right to do this. It was nice enough for them to
Just-
bring this to us, you know, and indemnify the
I'm
town.
just wondering, is it in
Yeah.
the residents' best interest, that's all?
Can I just jump in?
Yep. Mr. Hall?
Again, Neil Hall, building official. They're doing it the proper way based on state law. I know to some people it feels, and I don't live in town, but my feeling and my position on it as building official is they're going through the process the correct way. If the Longplex wanted to do this process, he could have come up with the same agreement, and he could have started his foundation and probably been done by now. It's basically up to the applicant to provide the town with the information, which they have so far, to proceed with it. So state law allows this, unfortunately, or fortunately, for depending on who you are. And I just have never been. So would I treat it the same? Absolutely. If another developer came in and bought the rest of the industrial park and wanted to put up whatever it is, and they went through the same process, I would treat it the same exact way. So I think we all have to understand that it's a state law process, that they have exercised their right. They obviously have done this before.
Thank you, Neil.
And just to follow up on that comment, because it was a good question, if there would be a dispute, let's say, between us and the town as to whether it meets whatever, then you would pay Peter to go to court, and I would have to pay Peter's bills, so.
We'd win. And Randy would make sure you did.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
It's in there.
Yes. That's true. You pay for our lawyers'
Yes.
fees to contest it. Yes, Mr. Belanger.
Good evening, Roger Belanger, 125 Stafford Road, Tiverton, Rhode Island. I had a number of comments I wanted to make tonight, but I guess I thought there was going to be more of an open forum with regards to this. Again, I was mistaken as far as my rights as a resident. I'm going to limit what I had to say here, simply to state that there was a number of issues, environmental type issues that were brought up to the planning board with regards to any of the work that's going on over there. And those should be given some serious consideration before any type of work is done. And this is, to me, you can call it what you want. I see this as shortcutting, bypassing, or doing whatever has to be done to make sure that these people get what they want. And I don't think it's fair. It's not fair to the town, it's not fair to the residents, it's not fair to the neighborhood. And secondly, they can say all they want, that they are going to pay to repair anything, any kind of damage. You cannot throw money and replace 80-year-old trees, decades-old property, and replace that by throwing money at it. So that's a lot of baloney, all right? That is not acceptable. The acceptable thing is you do things right up front, you make sure all the environmental concerns are addressed, all concerns are addressed before any kind of work takes place. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Belanger.
Madam President, I just want to point out again that we have a motion and a second on the floor, and I would love to put that to a vote.
I'd like to say
Just one
something.
more comment.
No worries.
Please.
I would like to say something. I'm not going to comment on this particular project, but I would like to give you a little history lesson. We have had two major projects in this town that have come before the planning board, and they went through all the procedures. One was the power plant in the industrial park, which is millions of dollars, more than this project, and Starwood.
But apparently they didn't ask to exercise the state law, or as Neil says, they could have. We could not have permitted that.
My second holds.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Opposed?
Abstain.
One abstention. Mr. Perry.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that, I just want to make clear, so that, because we had lots of discussion, that was the approval of the agreement with Twin River, Tiverton LLC, and the town of Tiverton regarding building permits. Next item, bids and requests for proposals. H1, interim town administrator, request approval for Pecasset Hill Cemetery mowing/maintenance and cemetery operations to Ronald Helga's Landscape at 578 Lake Road. Includes costs for various items that are listed in the bid sheet. Ms. Mello?
Madam Chairman, this is another item that the prior administrator was waiting for complete documents on. We have received the insurance on this. This was the only bidder. Mr. Helga does a good job up there and at a reasonable price, so I put it on for acceptance of his bid.
Do I have a motion to approve the Pecasset Hill Cemetery mowing/maintenance and cemetery operations contract to Ronald Helga
I'll
from
make a
Helga's
motion.
Landscape?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
I have a motion and second. All those in favor? Unanimous? Town administrator announcements. Nancy? None? Hold on.
Get organized over there.
About a solar event at Trinity. Oh, right here, I'm sorry. There is a program about Solar 101 taking place on May 11th, this Thursday at Holy Trinity Church. So they have asked that we please announce that, and I believe that is the only announcement for town administrator.
What time is that at?
That is from 6:30 to 8 p.m. We do have one of these posted. We have it posted here, and I can put it on the website.
Cool.
I believe they're also scattered around, because I think I've seen them in places.
Very good. Any council announcements?
Madam President, I don't have
Mr. LeBeau?
nothing planned. I just want to make a statement about the casino. The casino is being held to the highest standard that Tiverton and the state can hold them. And I know there's some people angry about what's going on, but they're not getting any special treatment. So everything that they're doing and they're getting approved, we're not pushing anything through, and we're making sure as a council that they do everything that they're supposed to do.
Thank you, Mr. LeBeau. Any
Yeah.
other counselors? Mr. Perry?
Yes, I'd like to make a statement. There were some negative things that were being said about our decision not to vote on an alternate budget. And when I voted, I did not vote to stop the school committee from putting in an alternate budget. I voted that I felt that I was not happy with our budget, but I was willing to accept what we were getting. And I just felt that there was some negative feedback towards certain people, and I just didn't think it was right, and I wanted to express my opinion tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Madam President.
Mr. Edwards?
I do not have a statement to make, although I would like to let the council know that I corresponded with Chris Boyle, who is the representative for Amera Energy. He is adamant, and his client is adamant, that we pick a date, 13th or 14th of June, to go out and tour the site. I personally would love to go check out the site. I haven't been in a power plant since I was in the Boy Scouts, and I think it'd be pretty cool. So I don't know if we could select a date and maybe get a site visit agenda. It's 13th or 14th of June, which is...
The 13th and 14th is on a Tuesday or a Wednesday?
Correct, yeah. Yeah, it would be a nighttime. And if we choose one of those days, I can let him know which one it will be.
The 13th is better for me, if that matters.
I would be willing to do either or, although the 14th is Flag Day.
It is.
What time?
Irish
flag.
What time is it, John? Well, you don't know yet.
I'll double check the exact time, but it'd be in the evening.
It would be in the evening?
Correct.
13th, 14th?
Can I check my
Either one's
calendar?
good for me.
I'm good with either one.
both days.
13th is best, I don't think I could make it.
All right, so
Okay, so 13th is fine with me. So we'll target the 13th of June for a tour.
yeah, it's a tour site visit, and I can correspond with Chris and with Nancy to get the exact times together, so that can be posted.
Just to clarify, you won't need legal counsel at that?
No.
Okay.
Not unless legal counsel would like to see boiling water, which it's cool. I mean, you want to come check it out? Like,
Thank you, Mr. Edwards, for
Thank you.
reminding us. Town solicitor announcements? None. Town clerk items and announcements?
Just a quick update on the financial town referendum. I'm sure everyone knows by now.
No, really?
There is no alternate budget proposal on, but there is the Budget Committee's recommendation of proposal. There are 8 resolutions of the Budget Committee. There are 2 resolutions of the Town Council and 1 petitioner's resolution. It has been all certified and sent to the state. They're in the process of printing the ballots, and they should be out soon. So we are proceeding with our training. That election, we will have absentee voting on the Thursday and the Friday. That would be May 18th and 19th, from 7 in the morning till 8. And then the actual day of the referendum, which will be at the high school, again from 7 in the morning till 8. The absentee voting is only held at the town hall. So that is proceeding. The special election for the Charter Review Commission, we had 27 people declare. They will pick up their nomination papers. This is all set by state law, because this election for Charter Review, whenever it requires candidates, falls under the Title 17 of the state elections. So they could pick up their nomination papers on Wednesday, the 10th, and they have until the 16th, which is next Tuesday, to return them with the 50 signatures, hopefully before then, so that the staff can verify the signatures. And that's all I have.
Very good.
Oh, unless you, people should realize that the Essex Library, we're closing, we're hoping to close by May 16th, and everything is proceeding. We're getting the final water readings and the oil that's left in the tank, and with tonight's vote, we'll be crediting that $2,400 for the pump. So that should be taking place. It's scheduled for the 16th.
What time on the 16th?
We don't have a time yet, but we're just trying to get all the ending information together.
Do I have to be there? I think I have to sign.
Probably you may have to sign. We'll let you know.
Okay. Yep. I signed the purchase and sale. Closed executive session, Mr. Edwards?
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to go into closed executive session. Counselor Shabbat, 42465A2, litigation, Four Corners.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion's been made in second.
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
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 Yes. And continuing in closed executive session, Labor Council, potential litigation, collective bargaining, 42465A2, IBPO.
Second. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
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 Yes. And continuing in closed executive session, solicitor 42465A2, litigation, General Auto et al. v. Tiverton et al., NC 20170026.
Second.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
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 Yes. And continuing in closed executive session, personnel 42465A1, discussion on job performance, character of town administrator candidates.
Second.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
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 We are now in closed executive session.